In March 2022, COMC made one change to how they accept submissions that you should know about before you submit your cards. It's a small thing, but it could definitely impact what cards you send in a batch. Previously, when I've sent cards into COMC, I've done it with several hundred cards at once, mostly raw sports cards, but usually with maybe 4 or 5 graded cards and maybe 2 or 3 raw Pokemon cards in the mix. But in March 2022, COMC quietly made one change to how they accept submissions that will have me changing part of my approach to which cards I'm sending in each batch. Even if you submit all 300 or 400 cards or whatever in one box, COMC will separate the graded cards into a separate batch, and the Pokemon cards will also be separated into another separate batch. The reason this matters to you is because there is a minimum fee per batch of $10 for them to ingest the cards into the system. So if you have 20 raw cards in a batch, at 50 cents per card ingestion, that comes out to $10, so no issue. But if within your big stack of say 300 raw sports cards that you're sending to COMC, if you have 2, say, random Pokemon cards in there, those 2 Pokemon cards will be considered their own separate batch, and you will have to pay a $10 ingestion fee for just those 2 cards. Be aware of this. Don't send in just a couple of Pokemon cards together with a bunch of sports cards. I just recently did this and I was surprised that my 2 cards ended up costing me $10 to ingest instead of the $1 I was expecting. Luckily, when I communicated with COMC to figure out why these 2 cards were charged so much, they made a really nice gesture of reimbursing me $9 as a courtesy since I was unaware of this new policy, which I might add is just the latest in a string of really positive interactions I've had with COMC whenever I have faced some kind of issue on their platform. But for the future, this means I won't be sending in any random Pokemon cards in my shipments unless I happen to have 20 of them, which for me may probably never happen. The situation is similar with graded cards too. I used to send in just a few graded cards with my shipment of raw cards to COMC, pretty much entirely because I'm sending my cards internationally, and graded cards are the most likely cards to cause any pause or issues at customs. Graded cards are more likely to be where the higher end cards exist, so customs will take a closer look if you have a bunch of graded cards in a shipment, whereas raw cards usually go through without any issue. As such, whenever I send cards to COMC, I've done 99% raw with just like 4 or 5 graded cards added into the mix. It makes my international shipment lighter weight as well to avoid graded cards, making it cheaper to ship, and it makes me have less possibility for issues at customs. So for me, raw is the way to go. But now, if I continue to send in 4 or 5 graded cards per shipment, it basically just means I'm going to have to double my ingestion fee for those graded cards, or I'm going to have to risk sending in a larger number of graded cards in each shipment, like at least 10, and hoping it doesn't cause any issues at customs. If you send in 10 graded cards in one shipment, no issue. That batch of cards will cost $10 to ingest since graded cards have a $1 ingestion fee. But if you send in 5 graded cards in a mix of a stack of a bunch of hundreds of raw cards, now you'll essentially be paying $2 per card to ingest those graded cards. Now this isn't a huge deal, but it's just something to be aware of, and I think it might make an influence on what cards you may choose to put in a package that you're shipping in. Alright, so this was a quick video, but since it was something I just recently learned about and it's going to influence me, I wanted to make sure others were also aware. Hope it's helpful for some of you. Check you later. Peace.